first speaker that I'm going to welcome on stage is Janice Benson. She's going to talk about UX and LX design, bridging the gap. So Janet holds a Master's in Digital Education from the University of Edinburgh. She is working currently as the Learning Lead with the Learnovate Centre in TCD, and she's a member of the Innovation Services team working with clients to identify their customers' problems, map their user journeys, and identify their areas for improvement and or innovation. So, bridging the gap. Welcome, Janet.
Hi everyone, thanks so much for having me. I'm not a UX person, so please don't throw any fruit or anything like that at me. So my talk is going to be about LX design, and just to give you an idea, what is LX design? It's learner experience design. Learner experience design is very much focused around adult learners, and particularly in a very corporate and often a kind of a workplace environment. What's the difference between LX and UX design? Not that much, but the main thing being that with the learners, they have to have an experience, but they also need to learn something. So they need to have an experience, but they also need to learn from that experience. And that's kind of the main difference between the UX and the UI thing, and the LX thing. So think about instructional design. If you think about that, this is the way we've been for the last 10 to 15 years. It's very didactic. It's very, the learner is very much a passive person in the whole experience. But with the advent of technology, we've had to change everything that we're thinking about. We have to think about how we implement technology into the learner experience. So we've been having to change everything that we knew over time, and very much focus on the whole LX and the whole holistic experience of a learner. You've all had probably bad experiences of, you know, sitting through death by PowerPoint, and but now we're trying to make it an actually really interesting experience for learners, something that's engaging and interactive. What have we been doing over the past few years? We've had ADDIE models, we've had loads of instructional design models, but we're thinking about how do we make that more interactive? How do we make the experience better for learners, that they don't kind of switch off? And what can we do better? So from my perspective, there are so many things in UX design that we can use for LX design. We don't take on board everything, obviously. We need to kind of see what you guys are doing and what we can take on board to make it. And this, one of the first things is definitely empathize. This picture has nothing to do with that. I just thought it was really cute. But definitely empathizing with learners is the first thing. Empathizing with learners isn't about how they feel or what they want to do. It's very much about what they need to know to do their jobs. Using emotion is a huge part of learning, and we don't do it that much. Think about the last time that you almost hit someone with your car. You probably remember that really well, and that whole experience. I'm not saying, you know, you're not going to hit someone with your car to have a learning experience, but, you know, think about, maybe you could do that. Always don't make learners work for the learning. That's a huge part of it. So a lot of the time we kind of assume that learners will be able to use the technology that's put in front of them, whether it's a learning management system or some kind of technology. Don't assume that. Make sure that we think about accessibility around people who have colour blindness, whether they have dyslexia, dyspraxia. Often we don't really take that into account, and it's very important that we give the same experience to everyone. Doesn't matter what their accessibility is. As learning experience designers, we're very good at getting feedback at the start and the very end of the whole process. But as UX designers, you're very good at doing that iteratively, like we do it the whole way through the process. We need to do that more as learning experience designers, because otherwise we end up with a process it's awful and the experience is terrible. Design thinking, again, you know, sometimes it's a buzzword, especially when it comes to learning. I don't think that it is. I think there are aspects of design thinking that we can definitely take on board when we look at learning. And there, as I said, empathy is one of the first ones. Prototyping is another thing with learning experience design. We tend to create something, put it out into the world, hope that it works, and just like pray for it. But like, if we prototype something, we can actually think about, well, how's it actually going to work? And then test it. Ooh, that worked really nice. Boop. So test it with our learners. Let's do a pilot. Let's see the little parts that work. Do they like it? Do they not? Does it work? Whatever. Because we don't do that enough. We tend to kind of pray and be very faithful about that something's going to work. Design sprints is another thing. I like the fact that you can ideate and learn something from not creating an entire experience, doing something small. Let's see how that works. Let's get feedback from stakeholders, SMEs, learners, and not create something from start to finish. Build something and learn from it is a huge part of, I think, the new learning experience design as we see it. Let's not kind of just, as we've been doing to date, is like doing something from start to finish and hope that it works. Doesn't always work. Research is a huge part of what we do, and we don't tend to get the chance to research what are the good things that are out there. So like, for example, and it's going to come into the next slide, we don't get, as learning experience designers, a chance to learn from the good stuff. So whether it's resourcing or time, we don't get to actually sit down with the likes of you people who are user experience designers and go, what's the stuff that they're doing that's really good? What is the stuff that we can take on board that might actually work for learning design? And let's kind of have a look and see, what are people doing that actually works? Let's not keep reinventing the wheel and doing stuff that we think is going to work, but it kind of doesn't. The experience is sort of crap, the learning is sort of crap, but if we can actually pull the two together, that could be actually amazing for learning. And, oh, that was really fast, and thanks.